While you may know me for having a very specific brand, that being my favorite show in the world, the other thing that I absolutely love are horror movies, as evidenced by everything hanging on the walls and up on shelves. One of the things that's been going around horror TikTok for a little while now has been the name a horror movie that you love from every year you've been alive. And I'm going to do that. But it's a long video because I'm old. All right, I'm not old, but I'm old enough that there's 46 entries on this list, guys. 46, that's a lot. That's a lot. And I feel like it needed to be two things. One, I'm going to split this up into convenient little chunks to put on my TikTok, which you can find down below right here, as well as actually having a full-form YouTube video where I can actually talk a little bit more, go in a little depth about why I like some of these movies, which you really can't really do on YouTube. It's going to be more of like a quick-fire, rapid thing. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to talk a little bit of horror. A little bit of a deviation from Star Trek, but earlier in the pandemic, one of the first videos that I put up on here was my 10 movies you should watch while we're in lockdown video, which I think I'll link up to above somewhere. So here we go. 46 movies covering 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, I've lived through 6 decades? Oh my God. So we're gonna start in 1977. And I know, I can't believe how old I am too, sometimes. So we're going to start in 1977, and there's only one movie to put on the top of this list, and it's a hell of a way to kick off. It's Suspiria, Dario Argento's masterpiece, which is always a hard thing to say because he has Deep Red in his back pocket, which is one of the 10 greatest horror movies of all time. That is a list for another video, though. We're just going to go with Suspiria. It's the best horror movie from that year. It's not even a question when I saw it. Much like 1978's Dawn of the Dead. I mean, how could you not put that on there? Yes, there are a couple of other contenders, and yes, there is a cat jumping in my lap right now. Hi, Maz, how are you? I couldn't think of another movie to put in there, you know? I mean, Dawn of the Dead. I mean, 77, 78, you have two of the greatest horror movies ever made. And then in 1979, you have a third one, and that being Alien. Alien, I know that you kind of have to put that a little bit more in sci-fi, but Alien has all the tropes of a slasher movie, and I just love that movie so goddamn much. I think most of the time, if you asked me what my favorite movie is, I will probably say Alien. Now we get to jump into the 1980s. And 1980s, we're going to repeat ourselves a little bit here. Now I know there are more and more things to start to pull from at this point, but I still have to go with Inferno. Keeping on par with Dario Argento. Is Inferno a lesser movie than Suspiria? Yes. Did I see Inferno before I saw Suspiria? Yes. So that was kind of my introduction to it. So that whole idea of Dario's gorgeous, colorful, just visual palette that he throws up on screen, that was my first introduction to that. Rolling into the 80s and staying with Italian horror, 1981 is going to give us The Beyond. This I can say unequivocally, Fulci's masterpiece. I think this movie is gorgeous. Even when I saw it on VHS when it was called The Seven Doors of Hell or The Seven Gates of Hell, I forget what it was actually called there by US distributors, I knew there was something gorgeous about The Beyond. And it's just, you know, sometimes you forget that film is a visual medium, and when you see style over substance, which The Beyond absolutely is, you forgive whatever you might have in the way of plot, and you just go with the absolute gorgeousness of a movie. I'm covered in cat hair already. So here we are in 1982, and it's, I mean, so early on in this list, there are so many no-brainers, in my opinion, that when I pulled up the year-by-year Wikipedia article, it's not even a question. 1982, it's the thing. It's the thing. 100%. John Carpenter's best movie by a long shot. Coming in the middle of one of the greatest directorial runs ever. This is the perfect example of what a good remake looks like. It's so unique, and there's no way that, yes, there was the 2011 redo, which could have been maybe equally as good if we had actually gotten it with practical effects instead of CGI. Who knows? We'll probably never see that version. But The Thing, holy cow. I mean, there are shots in this movie that stand up to this day that will probably never look any better, no matter how good CGI gets. The film is dark. The film is moody. The film is nihilistic. It's everything that you would kind of expect out of a John Carpenter movie. It's just great. It's amazing. Obviously, go watch it. You are just being a love bug right now. Moving on to 1983, I'm going a little bit off course here because these are movies that I like. And whereas I could say a lot of more mainstream movies, as that horror and slashers were starting to come into their own at this point in the early 80s, I still kind of prefer a little bit more in the way of supernatural horror, and that's why I'm going to go with 1983's Eyes of Fire. There's something about this movie that feels like I am watching a dream. Like when I actually remember my dreams the next day and kind of write as many of them down as I can, the narrative of this movie feels the same way. It feels light and airy, and it feels very flow of consciousness type of things. It doesn't give you all of the answers, which is nice. It just kind of makes you stop and think about the relationship between humans and nature and what that may or may not have in terms of an imbalance, especially on our end. It just got a great re-release onto Blu-ray, and the movie has never looked better. I highly recommend it. I recommended it in my pandemic video. I recommend it now. It's the best movie of 1983. It's not even a question in my mind. 1984 was kind of surprising. When you think of the year 1984 and its association to quality movies that have come out there and have stood the test of time and really shaped a lot of popular culture, very few of those were actually horror movies. So imagine my surprise when the best movie that came out of that year that I saw on my list was 1984's The Company of Wolves. I have a very tenuous relationship with werewolf movies. I don't really like them, with the exception of maybe like 4. I generally don't dig werewolf stuff. It's not my thing. But this movie, much in the same way that Eyes of Fire has that dreamlike quality, The Company of Wolves very much pairs, like if you did those two movies as a double feature, like that would kind of rock. Now, The Company of the Wolves is lucky that it has the set design of the great Anton Furst, who 5 years later would give us a Gotham City in the Tim Burton Batman movie that is unrivaled. And you have that here in essentially what is the fairy tale of the big bad wolf retold in a romantic, often sexy kind of presentation. Now, The Company of the Wolves is lucky that it has the set design of the great Anton Furst, who 5 years later would give us a Gotham City in the Tim Burton Batman movie that is unrivaled. And you have that here in essentially what is the fairy tale of the big bad wolf retold in a romantic, often sexy kind of presentation. Carrying in with that like dreamlike fairy tale kind of ethereal essence about it. It's great. It's great. I'm going to say that with every single one of these movies because these are my favorite movie of that year. But it's a great flick. It's a great flick, often underappreciated. I don't think it has a current Blu-ray release right now. I could be wrong. And I think the last time I saw it, I watched it in full on YouTube. But double check on that. How about this? How about for every movie that I recommend, I will throw a link to it somewhere, streaming or for purchase, in the details down below. 1985, and we're going with Dario Argento's last appearance on this list, and that is Phenomena. What a great movie. Oh, what a genuinely unnerving movie. Insects are kind of one of those things that kind of skeeve me out. So I feel like this movie is really good at kind of like getting that like uncomfortable vibe, that thing that I'm trying to not say gets under my skin, because the thought of bugs and being under your skin is but that's what this movie does, and it does it so well. It's got a great cast, a young up-and-coming Jennifer Connelly. You have an in his prime wacko doctor with Donald Pleasance coming off of the 2 Halloween movies. I mean, it's a great meshing. I think everybody crosses paths at the right time to kind of make a very unique type of movie. 1986, another no-brainer. It is The Hitcher. I had HBO back in the 80s. I watched a lot of movies that I probably should not have watched. The Hitcher is definitely one of them. Maybe the first real thriller I can think of being the quote-unquote kind of like arms firmly being gripped by my hands on a chair type of like watch. Maybe even more so like when you think of like Doctor Who and watching from behind the couch. This was definitely that type of movie. I don't think I had ever really seen a movie like this that young, because I would have been 10 here when this movie came out. You've got Rutger Hauer, who is both terrifying and turns you on a little bit. And this movie is a perfect example of how, in Kalis's name, are you gonna get your way out of this situation, and how is Rutger Hauer going to come back in and scare you again? It is a movie of really good traps that get set up, and every single time an escape is found for both the hero and the villain. It's a great flick. It's a great flick. And I think it just got all the rights clearances for a good home release. So the first 10 movies from the first 10 years that I was alive: Suspiria, Dawn of the Dead, Alien, Inferno, The Beyond, The Thing, Eyes of Fire, The Company of Wolves, Phenomena, and The Hitcher. Well, hello everybody, it's Ace in the future, editing this video currently and realizing how much it really got away from me as I was talking. Lots of long-winded answers, especially the further I went into the video. So I'm going to be cutting this up into 3, maybe 4 different videos that I'll be releasing every other day throughout the week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, whole week's worth of my thoughts on every horror movie from every year that I have been alive. So I'll see you soon for part 2. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and head down below, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more Star Trek and horror movie-based content, and never forget, live long and prosper.